Okay. So, did anyone not get a book?
Yeah.
Okay, so come up here. Let me tell you let me tell you how I'm in the wrong end of the education business. This book costs about $75. It's a new edition. You see, it's different than the color. Some of you have a green book. All of you do. This is exactly the same book. I think one chapter is flipped from another one, like they moved 7 to 8, maybe something like that. And they changed the color to this red color, and they charge a lot more money. It's a good business model, right? So here's your expense. Take care of this book, man.
Yeah, I will. I promise.
So look what number 34. Let me write you down for that part.
Is there another one, or is it just this one that I need?
Oh, another one they have on order. So, but
Okay.
you won't need that for a few weeks or a couple of weeks. So we're okay.
Okay, that's good.
Good. All right. Let me write that down. 34, right?
Yeah.
Today's the 25th. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So yesterday, or last, I'll keep saying yesterday, but you know what I mean. We were talking about, how far did we get? About philosophical questions and non-philosophical. We talked about that?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So, what about definitions of philosophy? I talked about that. What different people have said. I think that's kind of where I left off. If I gave you the ones from Socrates, Plato, right, from those. Let me give you a couple others. You can write down one or two of these if you want to. And these are not from any particular person, just some different ideas. Philosophy, trying to define it in some way, is a critical look at our beliefs and our convictions, our assumptions even. And when I say critical, I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that you're just really going to take a hard look at it. So all the things that you're convinced of, you're convicted of, things that you believe, things that you assume about the world, you're going to take a look at those. Hey, where did I learn that from? Why do I believe that? Is the person who told me that reliable? How's their life going? Right? Has that belief caused me some trouble in life? Trouble that I don't need to have. I don't know. So you're going to take a look at all of that. A critical scrutiny of our beliefs and assumptions. Really very similar to that, but and it kind of goes along if there was a method to this. It's a bringing to light of our hidden assumptions, things we don't even know that things that we just had passed on to us, and kind of bring those to light, and then apply that critical scrutiny to those things that were formerly hidden assumptions, things that we weren't even aware of that we believe. So bring those things to light. I used to use a book for this class. There might be a copy over there somewhere, called Sophie's World, and it was kind of a novel form book, but the book was it presented all this philosophy, world philosophy from beginning to end. But one of the key kind of themes of the book was to keep your kind of childlike wonder about the world. I don't know if any of you maybe you have nephews or nieces, or maybe even have siblings that are like in the 3 to 4 year range or somewhere in there. And they don't stop. I mean, they're just insatiable when it comes to wanting to know why, what's that? All these questions come out of them, and they're processing all this and remembering it. But at some point we kind of lose that level of intellectual curiosity. For some people, it maybe develops a different way, and they still have it. But this idea, and this definition I'm going to give, is an effort to kind of keep alive our sense of wonder about the world, and not just wonder like amazement, but wonder like, I wonder why that happens, or I wonder why things work like that, or I wonder why people act like that, and really being curious about why people, why the world, why nature operates the way it does. And last one, I think I mentioned in some other way, but I think I'm going to get the classes confused all the time, but the AV group. But I was saying that philosophy is like the mortar between the bricks on a building. It holds together those bricks. It's the stuff that's in between the bricks, and it even seeps into the other bricks. So where there are gaps in other fields of study, philosophy then answers questions, deals with problems that are not dealt with by the other academic disciplines. So you have a lot of philosophers who were mathematicians, actually, many who were psychologists, many who were doctors, like physicians, medical doctors. You have a lot of people who have all kinds of different backgrounds. They were writers, and they get into this field of philosophy not by majoring in philosophy in college, but through whatever other field they are trained in. And they kind of see that importance of the philosophy between the other academic disciplines. So let's say it this way, that philosophy deals with certain questions and topics that the other disciplines don't deal with. It's, again, it kind of holds everything together, but it's not, and maybe it bleeds into it a little bit, like I said. I should probably go to the doctor, right? Yeah, that's it. We all have to self-quarantine for a while. Well, these things I've mentioned here about keeping yourself, alive, a sense of wonder about the world, examining your beliefs and convictions in a critical way, all of that kind of stuff could possibly, depending on where you end up with it, lead you to a conclusion that may not be a very popular one at times for yourself. Like, you're not maybe trying to impose this on other people, but you have some idea or viewpoint that you've come to after this critical scrutiny that may go against the culture in which you live, the situation, even kind of more microcosm, the situation in which you find yourself. And I keep myself on camera here. My narcissistic self keeps looking over at the, my beard look okay? All right. You may find yourself in a certain situation where that idea is not going to be well received. And there's a German philosopher whose name I bet you already know. His name was Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche, and he called this kind of thing, and I'll give you the word and then I'll define it. He called this kind of thought untimely meditations, a very polite word for perhaps impolite thing, or not impolite, but could be abrasive to some people. An untimely meditation is an expressed thought that you have that goes against the culture that you live in or the situation that you find yourself in at that time that you express it. It could be verbal, it could be written expression, but in some way an untimely meditation, and that's the thing meditation kind of throws, because it makes you think, oh, you're sitting there and you're meditating, but you're expressing this meditation, this conclusion you've come to about life, for yourself at least, and you are going against the grain. You're going against the grain of society or situation. So just as maybe an example, let's say that one of you has the chance to speak in chapel, right? Here at Kasha. And you decide to come out of the closet as a homosexual in chapel. Or maybe at graduation in one of your speeches, something like that. That would kind of go against the grain a little bit, right? Like, the time, situation that you're in doesn't seem, maybe people might say, oh, that's inappropriate. Yeah. Well, okay, they're expressing what they think. Maybe the wrong place. It's gonna make some people upset. Maybe, let me think, there's something not really political, but okay, let's say that Aiden he got a copy of the Communist Manifesto off of my shelf over there. He kind of gets interested in all this stuff, I don't know. You start wearing fatigues and all this all the time, camo gear. And then you go over to Utica Square and you get yourself a little stool or something and you stand and you start reading out of the Communist Manifesto over here in front of Saks Fifth Avenue or something, right? Can you imagine? How long is that going to last for? You think? Yeah, security, I don't know how slow they are, but, you know, not too long. Other people probably get to you first, right? Like people spit on you or something or call you out. And yeah, but you've really come to the conclusion. You've really gone through this kind of intellectual process, and this is the way you think things should be. But, you know, maybe Utica Square is not the best audience for you. Maybe. But maybe you just want to rub people the wrong way. You just want to wake them up or something. Huh? I don't know. But you probably won't be well received. Now, you could go, let's say, to Managua, Nicaragua, maybe, or to San Salvador, some city in Central America, and do you speak Spanish? Well, that's going to be important, probably. Okay, so maybe you have to take some. But anyway, you start reading that same book in Spanish, though, and you might draw a crowd of people who are interested in what you're saying. Maybe, right? So that's not really, so it's definitely kind of a situational thing. But this is an untimely meditation, yeah? Marxism, Utica Square versus El Salvador, your sexuality in chapel, maybe that's not such a, yeah, I don't know. But those kind of things would be untimely meditations, yeah? So you may have some ideas about things that just aren't that popular, but you've come to it honestly through a process of kind of intellectual scrutiny. All right, I'm going to change gears here just a little bit and talk about, well, let me add one thing to this here. The guy we're going to talk about here not too long from now, Socrates, really one of his most famous quotes, I think it goes along with this, and I'm just going to throw this in with you, and it says that, Socrates said that, maybe you know this quote, the unexamined life is not worth living. You know that quote? Yeah. Not worth living. So if you're not examining yourself and going through this process, whatever that process might be, you're living an unexamined life, and that's really not a life worth living. So that's a necessity for, as Socrates would say. He says this at his trial, by the way. He says this when he's on, and he says it's almost an untimely meditation when he says it, because he kind of has the sense already that he's going to get convicted of whatever they trumped up on him, charges and stuff. But he doesn't seem to care. He just tells them, yeah, all I do all day long is talk to people and, you know, and persuade them and talk to them, and they ask me questions and I answer, and I ask them questions and they answer. And I do this because I think it's the greatest good of the soul, the greatest good of man, to daily converse about virtue. I'm paraphrasing Socrates and quoting him a little bit, right? Because the unexamined life is not worth living. And he's really kind of saying that to the people who are sitting in judgment of him. He feels like they live that way. And he has a more worthwhile life, which is his goal, right? Okay, that's good. Let me leave that. Let's talk about philosophical questions versus non-philosophical questions. So you gave me some examples maybe of some philosophical questions, but here's some kind of characteristics, I guess, of philosophical questions that will almost always apply. One of them always applies, I think. The first, I say, characteristic of a philosophical question is they tend to be very broad, general questions. They tend to be that way. I'll give you some examples in a minute. Those questions may, and please write this, may appear to have, depends on what your situation is, but they may appear to have little use. Like if you even find out the answer, why have you spent so much time, working on that? You can't really use that in any way. Well, maybe not right then, but maybe some other time you could. But so they may appear to have little kind of practical use. The third one is what applies to all philosophical questions, and that is that there's no standard procedure or technique, route, to go about answering a philosophical question. There's no standard way, standard procedure to go about answering it. So, if if I ask Henry, is there any beer in your fridge at home? Would you mind, almost like a child, not in a child voice though, it's weird, but like just tell me like step by step what you're going to do. You can go, what do you got to do? You can go do it, but find out if there's any beer in your fridge at home. What are you going to do? So you're going to go home, Henry, right? Hank, I'm sorry. Hank, you're going to go home, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Then what? Where is the beer? It's in the fridge, right?
Open the door.
Open the fridge door, okay? Move the mustard around, I don't know. And there it is. Maybe take a picture of it. You come back, with or without the beer, up to you, right? And then you tell us, yeah, there was some beer in my fridge, right? There's not a whole lot of other ways to go about this, right? Really, I guess you could call somebody, but maybe I want you to check it out. I want you to know firsthand. So other than going there, it's not upset? Okay. And if I ask, let me pick somebody here. Oh, Lucy, what is the atomic weight of gold? How would you figure that out? Okay, I bet we have people here in the school who know how to do that. What? No, let her. Who would you talk to here in the school? What field of study is that, by the way? Chemistry. Okay, so name some people who you might. Millspa. Okay. Miss Graves knows that kind of stuff too. Okay. Miss Finska, does she know that kind of stuff? Okay. Is it possible that that information's on the periodic chart of elements? Okay. So you may not have to go that far. You may not have to bother anybody, you know. You may just be able to open up the front cover of your chemistry book, and right there inside, maybe, is, let me see. Let me show you something so this is a German, this is not a science textbook, but I bet if you look inside of a chemistry or biology textbook, you're going to find the same thing. And this is something that seems to be important, that we kind of document that, yeah, this book's been reviewed by scholars, and they've decided it's a good textbook for teaching, for its methodology, for its information, and these people kind of sign off on. I hope this is the right book. I hope that I have it in this book here. We'll see. Yes. Okay. Oh, look at this. So it's got a big. I bet science textbooks probably have more. It's the kind of stuff you don't ever look at because the teacher never tells you to go there. But reviewers, and everyone on this list teaches at a university. They're all PhDs. Oh, there's someone from Stanford. Here's somebody from, I can't see here. Somebody from University of North Carolina, University of Wisconsin, University of Michigan, from, pretty good list here, Harvard, Brown, another Ivy League, University of Pennsylvania, another Ivy League, SMU, they're down south of us, University of Minnesota. Yeah, all these people, I don't know how many there are, maybe 30 or so, have signed off that this book's a reliable book, it's free of error and all that kind of stuff, you know. And yeah, so when I look at that, if this were a chemistry book and I look at that periodic chart, maybe that's over here, I can trust that doctors so-and-so, so-and-so, so all these people have agreed that the atomic weight of gold is correct here. That, right? I can take their word. It's a reliable source, right? Okay? So that'll work for me. So beer in the fridge. Let me see. And Cece, if I asked you to find out if there's any trout in Missouri, how would you do that? Okay. And would you just go to some guy's blog or something? Like, I really want to know for sure. So what kind of site would you maybe be looking for with some veracity, maybe that?
Maybe like a .org or something.
A .org? Maybe, what about a .gov maybe?
Yeah.
Because I would imagine, I don't know this for sure, Cece, but I would imagine that Missouri has something like we have like a fish, game, and wildlife. You know what I mean? Like some, that, you know, conservation. That's a government, you know, a state government agency. And they may have a website. And I bet they might list all the wildlife, maybe, even have pictures. That'd be good. I think I would take that. But you could drive to Missouri, right? Get your fly fishing rod and your waders on and wade out into that stream. Do that before? Anyone do that before? Go fly fishing? It's a real art form, yeah. It's good stuff. One with nature, right? And you catch a trout, all right? Maybe a rainbow trout, maybe a brown, I don't know. And if you catch a whole bunch, would you bring them back? Because he's going to bring beer and we're going to have a fish fry. That'd be good? Okay. But you come back, hey, I went to Missouri and I caught these fish here, over there. That sounds good. So, basically it's, there's a couple of ways, but we kind of agree that there's only a couple of ways to get there. And then whatever last assignment I have here, let's say I give that assignment to, Eli. Eli, we got fish, we got beer, we got gold, atomic weight at least, and your assignment is, what is truth? So what are you going to do there? What's your method there? Say again? Okay, all right. If you had to kind of go through some steps or something to check it out somehow, what might be your first stop? Wikipedia? Okay, a priest, good. I hope they have some ideas about it, right? Who deals with truth a lot of their career, a lot of their day? What kind of career maybe deals with that? Priest, I think is a good one, but anything else you can think of? Yeah, who deals with truth? Anyone? Who has to discern who's telling the truth and who's not? And judges, okay, yeah. A counselor, yeah, they're pretty good at that. Principals of schools kind of have a sense about that kind of. I don't know if they're always right, but they have a sense about it. Okay, so how you discern the truth? Yeah. So a judge might tell you, well, I just kind of weigh the evidence on both sides, and I use a little bit of discernment, in the way that they presented that evidence, and does it seem reasonable, right? So one person says the truth is that a mob of foreigners, we'll just say that, busted into my home with nice suits on. They look like they work for some foreign mafia group. And just for no reason, they just shot my dog in the living room. And and they were shouting in different Eastern European languages or something. And I don't know what they were saying. And then they just left. And the other person says, well, what really happened was her husband just shot that dog. The dog was barking too much and just got sick of it. And so judge might look at that and say, so why would some Eastern European mafiosos come to your home, just kill your dog? Sounds more reasonable that maybe the guy inside the house did it, right? Like that sounds. Okay, so the truth may be a bit of discernment, right? A little bit of, okay. Yeah. You said priest already, but maybe there'd be other faiths. Maybe you got to climb some mountain in Nepal and talk to some guru, some monk in an orange toga or something. You know what I mean? You got to maybe sit in the lotus position for a while, meditate. Yeah. There's a bunch of ways. So your way is a bit tougher. Your assignment's a little more difficult. You don't get to go hang out at home and have a beer or go fishing, or you got to really kind of, it's different. And there's a lot of different ways you could go at it. And if I gave that assignment to everyone in the class, I might have 7 different directions going on how to get there. So that third one, there's no standard procedure. That one applies to all philosophical questions. The other two likely do. The third one for sure does apply to all philosophical questions. So again, if I ask you what date was the Declaration of Independence signed, there's a definite answer to it. But if I ask you, what does it mean to be pious or piety? What does that mean exactly? Well, that's a little more difficult to answer. A little more in depth, and maybe trying to find some answers that are not so easy to find. What time is it? Good. Let's just jump into this next little section here, and we'll get as far as we can. So, philosophy is a big umbrella. There's all kinds of things that fall, under it. I'm just going to kind of break this down to 3 different parts that really cover everything. So we have philosophy up here as kind of an umbrella over the rest of everything. We have 3 fields. We have a field that deals with, let's say, knowledge, what we know, what we can know. We have another field that deals with values, or I'll say value or value. These words are related. Say, what's the value of that Picasso painting? But then we have like personal values, some things that and those are not so, it sounds like a word that has 2 meanings, but where you place, what you think that thing is worth might show what your values are. Yeah? If you're willing to spend all your fortune on a painting, that shows me a lot about what you value. It shows me also the value of the painting monetarily, but also tells me a lot about your personal values. And the other one has to do with reality. And these 3 fields, you can say, they have their own names. Knowledge is this study of knowledge is called epistemology. That's an M there. Epistemology. And this field of studying people's values or where they place their value, that would be called axiology. Axiology. Just so you know, probably in everyday talking and even in political stuff and even people who don't realize they're talking philosophically, axiology is the largest field. It's the most talked about field today. You'll see reality, though, the study of reality is called metaphysics. That may be a word you've heard before. Metaphysics, or something as metaphysical. Yeah, is that in touch with reality? Is that really something you witnessed or you think you saw or felt, or is that thing real? Is it what is real and all that? But you have, again, axiology being the most talked about field, but you don't get a whole lot of modern philosophy that deals with metaphysics and epistemology. This field is one that's really talked more about today than anything else. Has anyone heard that term metaphysics before? Metaphysics? Or metaphysical as an adjective? No? The term, if you hear that term outside of this class, it may be being used a bit differently, although it's not totally off from reality or a discussion about reality, because if someone said today to you, oh, I had this metaphysical experience, and then they go on to tell you that while they were meditating, they realized they were floating off the surface of the ground by like 2 or 3 inches. Actually, they were levitating off the ground while they were meditating, and that was a metaphysical experience. So for some people, when they say metaphysical as an adjective, they mean a experience that transcends the normal order or laws of the universe. I don't know if you've gotten to this in science class or not yet, but levitating a few inches off the ground, that transcends the laws of the universe. Have you got to that part yet? And I don't know if they even talk about it, right? Because you just know that's not right? Wouldn't it be weird? Can you imagine, like, if someone sat in this chair right here, think about it, sat in this chair, and the chair lifted up off the ground, What are you going to do? You're going to go there looking for strings or wires or something, or fishing line, or that's going to be your first thought. And if you can't find anything else that's lifting it, and it appears they're really levitating, that's a real disturbing not disturbing, but it kind of creates a cognitive dissonance. We just know that doesn't fit the order of things in the world. Somehow they've broken this order of the universe. A quick personal story. And by the way, on Sunday, and I'm not making fun of this. I'm only because I believe it's possible. I don't know if it's always true, but on any given Sunday, by the way, I don't know if you know we live in the Bible Belt. By the way, this is my signal that I'm speaking sarcastically. All right, we live in the Bible Belt. You may have heard that. And on any given Sunday, you go to a dozen, 3 dozen, 4 dozen churches here in Tulsa, and you would find people who, during the worship service, are speaking in tongues. Have you heard this before? Okay, you live in Tulsa, so you've heard of it, I'm sure. Speaking in tongues. And that language they're speaking in is believed to be a language from heaven, or believed to be a dead language that no one speaks anymore. But somehow the Holy Spirit, comes into your body in some way and takes over, and it's not you talking anymore, but it's the Spirit speaking through you. That's, if I had to define it simply, that's how I would say it, speaking in tongues. So you may go to a church service, and by the way, the team we're playing on Friday night, you can go see them on Sunday, and they're doing it over there, right? So I've visited a few times there, and yeah. So one time, Lucy, I took my daughter. Have you met my daughter?
No.
Yeah. So she was younger, and I took her, and I said after the service, a friend of mine invited us, and we went, And so I said, well, Hannah, what did you like best about the service? And she said, well, I really like the fact that the singer on stage would sing like one verse in English and like another verse in Spanish, and the people around us were singing in other foreign languages too. I said, oh, Hannah. I said, yeah, those aren't foreign languages. That's not Spanish. Sorry. That's not a foreign language that anyone knows, at least. And that's kind of hard to explain to a 7-year-old, why people, yeah. But that would definitely be a metaphysical, if any of you experience that, you don't need to tell me, but if any of you experience that, that would be, and if it's true, you're really speaking a language that was spoken 2,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, or you're speaking a language from the angels in heaven, perhaps, that would definitely be something that transcended the natural universe, what we know about the rational order of things, and that's metaphysical. Again, you can kind of see the connection to reality here. It either is or isn't connected to reality. For the people who do it, they believe that it is. By the way, I have a friend, a still friend of mine, who I've never been with her when this happens, but she says she speaks in tongues. And I asked her, well, do you ever speak in tongues like when you're driving down Sheridan? It's like in your car. It's like all of a sudden the Spirit just hits you, right? And you start, she said, no. I said, well, like what about when you're getting ready in the morning, in the shower or getting your hair, or I don't know. Do you ever start speaking in tongues then? No. What about when you go to bed at night, you're laying there and you start speaking in? No. Anyway, I narrowed it down to, she only spoke in tongues between 11 o'clock and about 12:30 on Sunday morning at church. That was the only place it happened. Which seems to me to be a little bit limiting of the Spirit, really. The Spirit would go wherever it wants to, right? Just would hit you while you're driving down Memorial or down Lewis or something. But for her, it only happened from 11 o'clock till 12:30 on Sunday. And I wasn't trying to pin her down. I just wanted to know, like, where does this happen? And turns out it's only once a week on Sundays. So, yeah. You make your own conclusion. I don't know. But that's, okay, so metaphysics, we'll talk more about it and what it entails, and we'll talk actually quite a bit about it. All three of them we're going to talk about. And so this introductory material, it's kind of general stuff about, and some of these definitions, these words are going to come up again later in the quarter. We'll work through all this and also some of the early philosophers in the West. One other thing, and I'll say this tomorrow, so be sure to be looking for an email from me to tune into the Zoom thing tomorrow. I'll either be here at school, or I might come to school and do it. I might be at home. I don't know. But please, two things. Be sure to look for that email. And secondly, I want to go ahead and give you a reading assignment that's not due for a couple of weeks, but please take a look at it. And on your day off, you'll be able to spend some time reading. But I want you to read the first 2 chapters. The first chapter is called, "What Are We Doing in This Class?" So you see it on your faces, you're already asking that question. And the second one is, "Truth is beauty and beauty is truth." All right. Sounds fair. And as we get closer to the time that reading it, it's pages 5 to 72, and you have 2 weeks to read that. Also, let me see, you guys are the B group, right? So on Thursday, I'm going to live stream this class, and I'll send all of you a link of you guys in B. So when you're on what's normally going to be your day off, right, on Thursday, or what do you want to call that? There'll be a lecture going on that you'll need to watch in order to understand where we are on Friday, okay? So really, based for you guys, Wednesday and Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're moving forward in all 3 days then. Friday, you'll be here, so we can count Friday too, I guess, right?
What about Monday?
No, I'm going to alternate it. Like next week will be the A group that'll have to listen to a lecture. Yeah. And that'll probably be like I'll probably use Friday for that. So please take a look at chapters 1 and 2 in the book. And I'll put that assignment here on. Can I see, does someone have the green book? I want to make sure that I have the right chapters. Can I look at it just really quick? Or you tell me what chapter 2 is called? So I may have to readjust that for the red book. Here. What's chapter 2 called? Look in the front in the table of contents. It's right by the periodic elements.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, okay, just a second. It's right here. Truth is beauty, beauty is truth. Okay, that's what I need to know. Thank you.